Right on, folks. So today I've got a very special guest in the house. Special on the WOA FM 99 specials, that's what we're calling it. And this is an artist featured on our Breakthrough Artist album. And it is the one and only Scott MacPherson. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hey, man, this is the first time we're actually having a face-to-face chat, aren't we?
I know. We've had a couple of telephone calls,
We
but
have.
never face-to-face.
Right. So, Scott, tell us more about this beautiful song.
I wrote this quite a while ago when my partner at the time was dying of breast cancer.
Oh, my goodness.
She looked at me earlier that day, and I looked in her eyes, and I didn't see anything, and I thought, well, this is the end. This is it.
Yeah.
So I wrote the song, and I, set it aside, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't record it. I didn't even write it down. And then, fast forward to last year, my wife's sister, she died of a brain tumor.
Okay.
So I kind of, I thought, well, maybe it's time to do something with it. Her husband might relate to it.
Cool.
So it's really, it's kind of dark. It was so personal that I couldn't really do anything with it.
Of course.
I called a few friends and we went into the studio and knocked it out in a weekend.
You know what? I think, first of all, a song like that would resonate with a lot of people.
I've gotten a lot of feedback,
Yeah.
I've had people, cry about it.
But then coming to the fact that it's so personal and you couldn't release it because it was so personal, I totally understand that, because I've written a few songs that came from a very, a deep sort of experience that
Right.
as musicians and songwriters, we're going to write about it because that's all we know to do, right? That's how it's going to come out. But because
Right.
it's such a personal thing, let alone release it, even getting into the studio to sing it is a problem, because you sort of choke up or you can't really give the performance you want to give. It's right in there, but it's not really coming out. But I did actually release one song. I kind of changed the words to make it a little more relatable with everybody. Like a good song is 10 people can listen to it and identify with it for 10 different reasons. That's a good song.
Right.
So I
Right.
sort of did that, and that song became one of my best, I wouldn't say best, but I would say the most commercially successful at that time.
The people that I've bounced it off of, before you got it,
Yeah.
they all basically said the same thing. This is like the best thing you've ever written.
There you go. That's exactly what I was saying.
And, believe it or not, the vocal on there was like take one.
Really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And because I said to the engineer, my friend Tony Perino, who owned the studio,
Yeah.
I said, whatever you do, don't stop me.
So you just went from like a live recording, like first step.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I said, I don't, if there's a mistake, we'll fix it.
Right.
But, I got to the end and I said, I really want this to be heartfelt. I don't want a picture perfect vocal on it,
Gotcha.
which I could have done easily.
Of course.
But so when I got to the end, I said, well, how was that? And he basically said, there are no mistakes.
Nice.
I said, beautiful,
Yeah. Excellent.
So,
I would cringe as a producer. I would be like, oh my God, are you sure we're going to put the first take on? You know me. That's how it's going to go. I'm like, no. At least 20 takes.
right. But
yeah.
no, I didn't do that,
That's cool, man.
and
That's cool.
and it just came out, and everybody that, played on it, they just got it right away.
Yeah.
I didn't have any chord sheets. I didn't have any lyric sheets. I didn't have any, they just felt it.
Yeah.
And, and they just did it.
Excellent.
Oh, I gotta tell you, producing this song was the easiest producing gig I'd ever had in my life.
Nice.
because I didn't have to tell anybody anything.
You just went in there, one take, boom, done.
Yeah, boom, done. But Tony played all the keyboards.
Right.
And my friend Joe Mealy, he played the slide, which is the only electric guitar on there. And my friend Tommy Murphy, he played the mandolin, and he loaned me a bunch of acoustic guitars.
Nice.
So I played all the acoustics. I think there's 6 of them on there.
6 acoustics.
And then 6.
Why?
There's like
why'd you need
3
6 acoustics?
3 12 strings and 3 6 strings.
Holy shit. That's really cool.
Well, I'm known for that, because I know how to make them all work together. It's just really a matter of, creating space for them all.
Correct.
And making them all sound like one.
But if you're DTing it, then obviously that's a mixing call.
It is.
Tell us more about your career in studios. Like, how did that start off, and how long you've been doing it, and stuff like that?
Started a band when I was 14, and we were very popular. And at 15, we got a publishing deal from Capitol.
Whoa, nice.
And then, that was cool. We were approaching graduation, and our parents said, "No, you're going to college." So that was kind of the end of the band,
Gotcha.
I got a break in New York at the Hit Factory.
Nice.
It was like, the first record I worked on was a Hall & Oates record, and it was nothing but stars, major artists coming through the Hit Factory. And then right after Lennon's record, I was still there. I used to see John like every day. And so I'd go into the studio just to look around.
Of course, I would do that.
And I'd see Lennon's guitars. And right after he got killed, they closed that room off. I think it was around 1980 I moved to LA because, the music was kind of moving out that way.
Yep.
And, MTV was coming alive and all that. So I got into, TV posts. So I learned video, which was very valuable. And that kind of started my relationship with the record plant in LA. And then the owner, Chris Stone, he come to me and he goes, you want to do film scoring?
Wow.
And
nice.
I said, yeah. Because
hell yeah.
the record plant at the time, they were renting the old Glen sound stage at Paramount.
Right.
What they require, there has to be 5 engineers on a session. So I did, a lot of big movies.
Any big movies that classics that I would love that you can name off?
The Lost Boys.
No way. Come on.
Yeah. I'm looking at a poster that was given to me.
Oh.
It's sitting right here.
Okay.
And let's see, it was 3 Men and a Baby.
No way. I love that film as well.
Yeah. Roxanne, La Bamba.
Okay, Scott, La Bamba, I gotta stop you right there. You know the movie that made me want to become a musician, like full time, was La Bamba.
Really?
Richie Valens. I was 10 years old or 9 years old when I first got to see that movie, and I watched it in one day 5 times. And I told my mom, I said, "Mom, I don't want, as a kid, you want to be an actor, you want to be an astronaut, you want to be whatever." But I was always a musician since I was 4 years old. I was a prodigy in terms of guitars and whatever.
Right.
But I said, I want to be a musician. I want to be a singer. That's all I want to do at a very young age. And I think, aside from my love for music, that movie, man, that movie was a big, or rather, I should say, Richie Valens was a massive influence. And man, you engineered that film. Are you kidding me?
It was a lot of work because, Los Lobos came in to play. Carlos Santana came in. Bo Diddley came in. Willie Dixon came in.
Oh, I know Willie Dixon's granddaughter. She did a record with me recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Gardens of Stone. That was Francis Ford Coppola. That was one of his movies.
The stories you're gonna have. What we need to do, man, set up a line of freaking chats with you, and each interview is talk about each film that you worked on.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool. I think the listeners would love it. At least I would love it.
So, it was a lot of work, but it was fun meeting all these, all these people.
And how did you move to? What made you move to Nashville?
Probably music.
Okay.
it seemed like the industry was moving here.
Okay.
You know, at one point it was in New York, and then it moved to LA,
yeah.
and then it seemed like it was shifting here. But I really didn't want to go back to LA. I mean, I miss LA, but it's changed so much.
Right.
And my wife, she goes, I'm not going to LA.
Yeah, but speaking of LA, man, when I did my tour, I did this massive US. I did a couple of few US tours. The ones I did in the heartland, like Iowa, Illinois, and Ohio,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
Chicago, of course, because it's Illinois. But I enjoyed those a lot. No traffic, and of course the distances are a lot, but it's just a different mindset, the real America. But when I went to LA, I did Whiskey A Go Go. I performed there. I had to do that.
Of course.
I headlined a gig there. But to me, LA is just what we know. If you're not from the US, if you're not from Los Angeles,
Right.
it's Sunset Strip, right?
Yeah.
The Hollywood Walk of Fame, Rodeo Drive,
Yeah.
the Hollywood Hills right up there. That's it.
Yeah.
The rest is Mexico.
Yeah, right. You know what is interesting is when you live in LA,
Yeah.
you're kind of living in a bubble.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you don't even know
What's going
on in the rest of the country.
Tell me about it, man.
Until you leave LA,
Yeah.
and then you go, "Oh wow!
Oh shit! This
you know,
happened.
Is this America?" Nashville is not Nashville anymore.
Okay. Oh, tell me more. I want to know more about that.
Well, it's really become a tourist trap.
Yes, I get that. Yeah.
All these, Blake Shelton and Kid Rock and Jason Aldean, they've all got bars and restaurants downtown. And it's to the point where you can't even move down there.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
A young boy. The day the music died. It's a beautiful book.
Yeah.
You should check it out. But yeah, that's what it sounds like.
yeah. And then, and the problem with a lot of these, I don't do that much, outside work anymore because, I got involved with this band, and what they had done was just awful.
Okay.
So I said, we need to, redo the bass and do this. Well, what's wrong with it? Well, and as soon as you hear that,
You don't want to.
you're in trouble.
You don't want to work with people like that, man. Oh, God.
No. And this is the problem. Like a lot of these kids, they don't know what a producer is.
Exactly.
They think they know everything. I got to that point where it's like, well, I don't really want to. And they look at people like me and say, oh, you're old school.
No,
Well,
you're the one that
yeah.
got the experience. That's what makes the record a hit.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we're old school. That's what made records.
If you have not downloaded the independent #1's Breakthrough Artist 2, okay, that's the second edition of this beautiful, beautiful album. Please go download it. And Scott, great to have you on the show, man. Do you wanna plug in your social media to all our listeners where they can sort of find you? Have you got a website or just social media?
It's Scott MacPherson.
Okay, you should put Scott MacPherson OG. You know what
Oh,
I mean? You are the OG, man. Come on, think about it. You worked in all
No,
this.
it's just my name. That's it.
Okay, cool. Well, on that note, here is one of Scott's awesome new singles, When the Morning Comes. And enjoy, folks. See you soon. Ciao.